Devdi was a very horrendous experience. So took a while to get out. But I realized I was taking it home with me. It was my fault to also react. So after that, I made it a point कि नहीं I can't be like this because फायदा उठा लेते हैं मेरा.
Radio Nasha.
साल का पहला इंटरव्यू and I was really looking forward to bringing this title to you. My name is Rohini और आप देख रहे हैं Radio Nasha. Thank you so much for watching us and thank you so much मुझे join करने के लिए अभय, राजश्री and प्रशांत.
Wait, Radio Nasha. So you're a face for the radio, literally.
What do you think?
Okay. That changed.
मैंने कुछ चंद एपिसोड देखे हैं and I want to go back to 1997 because उस दौर में हम होश संभाल चुके थे, at least my generation. I was watching गुप्त, I remember in the theater. और 25 साल हो चुके हैं इस बात को. And your show, which is Trial by Fire, actually deals with an incident which is very uncomfortable in the same year. And इसके बारे में ज़्यादा बात नहीं हुई है. So Abhay, I'd like to start off with you क्योंकि मैंने पिछली बार भी पूछा था कि what draws you to a show or a series or a film और तुमने कहा था कि अलग होगा तो ऐसे हो गया कि अभय करेंगे. So is that the reason why you were part of this as well? क्योंकि थोड़ा सा अलग था.
नहीं, it's not that अलग था. मुझे याद है जब ये सिनेमा चला था. I was also, I don't remember what I was doing, पर मुझे थोड़ा एक vague memory है. टीवी चल रहा था और मुझे देखा एक cinema is on fire. And so when this came my way, I was like, oh yes, I know about this. अच्छा कोई इस पर कहानी बना रहा है. All right, interesting. True stories मैं कर चुका हूँ. So I'm interested in true stories because, you know, they really happened.
Yeah.
A reflection of what goes on in the country or society you live in. That was interesting. And then there's Prashant, who has a way with words, very persuasive. And then, of course, forget everything else. Those are just the initial boxes you check. Main box वही होता है कि मुझे script पसंद आई कि नहीं.
नहीं, yeah.
That's the main thing, and I was extremely affected by it.
Correct.
Because it was a true story and was just so tragic. तो वो जो effect आया मुझ पर, तब मैंने decide किया, okay, this is going to be a tough one to do. Not tough to act, tough to get out of once you're there.
For sure, absolutely. I don't know if I can say this without scaring anybody. Tough watch है. You know, हम डरते हैं tough watches से, हम tough चीजों से डरते हैं. लेकिन at the same time, ये कहानी जरूरी थी. You know, because it's not just about, you know, the fact that it's a tragedy. It's also the fact that इस tragedy से निकल के हमने बहुत सारी चीजों पर एक microscope, you know, लगाया, बिठाया. So Rajshri, thank you so much for that beautiful performance already. तुम्हारे लिए draw क्या था?
मेरे लिए of course कहानी बहुत ही important कहानी है और प्रशांत के साथ मुझे हमेशा काम करना था. I'm really fond of his work. और जब कास्टिंग और टीम ने और प्रशांत ने इन्होंने ऑडिशन लिया प्रॉपर्ली और तब मुझे पता नहीं था, पर थोड़ी देर के बाद जब मैंने पूरा डिटेल देखा अबाउट द केस, अबाउट व्हाट हैपेंड, क्योंकि मैं ऐसी जगह से आती हूँ और मराठवाड़ा से हूँ, औरंगाबाद से, तो मुझे इतना उस वक्त क्या हुआ था नहीं पता था. और बहुत बार ऐसे हो जाता है कि आप घटना घटी है पर उसके बाद उसके बारे में कहीं थोड़े कम जगह पे एक बातें हो रही है, बाकी इतनी सारी चीज़ें हो रही है आपको नहीं पता होती हैं. तो फिर आप जिंदगी में चले जाते हो आपके रेगुलर लाइफ में और आपको वो चीज़ पीछे हट जाती है.
तो सुर्खियां
रही. तो वैसा ही था मेरे साथ भी. जब इन्होंने मुझे अप्रोच किया, देन आई स्टार्टेड गोइंग बैक टू इट, दैट व्हाट एग्जैक्टली हैपेंड. एंड देन आप जब देखते हो, आप नीलम को सुनते हो, आप सारे वर्डिक्ट पढ़ते हो, आप कहानी को देखते हो, आप किताब को पढ़ते हो, तब आपको पता चलता है कि कितनी सारी चीज़ें हुई हैं. और ये दो इंसानों की जो कहानी है उसके साथ साथ कितने लोगों की कहानी है, हमारी कहानी है कहीं ना कहीं तो. और 25 साल तक नीलम और शेखर ने ये कहानी मतलब ये लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं और अभी भी लड़ रहे हैं, रोज उठ के वो लड़ रहे हैं. तो मुझे ऐसा लगा कि ये एक as a person, apart from an actor, a social worker, as a human being, I feel it's very important for me to be part of this. So फिर कुछ भी हो जाए मतलब, तो बहुत दिल जान लगी है इसमें. और टीम बहुत ही अच्छी थी मेरे साथ, प्रशांत ने बहुत हौसला दिया है, अभय साथ में था और बहुत ही अच्छी कास्ट और टीम मेंबर थे, तो उस वजह से हमने बहुत ही दिल से बनाया है ये शो।
थैंक यू फॉर दैट। प्रशांत, जो ड्रामा है इसमें वो काफ़ी अपेरेंट है। एक तो रियल लाइफ इंसिडेंट, नॉट सो फार इन पब्लिक मेमोरी, यानी कि 97 में घटी है ये घटना। आज भी लोग जब बोलते हैं उपहार सिनेमा, आई नो दिस, यू नो, दो आई वॉज वेरी यंग एट दैट टाइम, अभी भी बोलते हैं। आई रिमेंबर देयर वाज एन एक्चुअल इफेक्ट ऑफ दिस और इम्पैक्ट ऑफ दिस ऑन माई लाइफ, क्योंकि कुछ दिनों के लिए मेरे मॉम डैड ने बोल दिया था कि हम सिनेमा घर नहीं जा सकते। तो वो तो है कि आपको पता है कि दिस इंसिडेंट लेंड्स इटसेल्फ टुवर्ड्स नैरेटिव, राइट? लेकिन फिर भी मुझे लगता है कि ये जो ड्रामा आप ढूंढ रहे हैं या हमें दिखा रहे हैं वो ये इंसिडेंट के अलावा है, कुछ और है। तो आपके लिए सबसे इंटरेस्टिंग या ये जो ड्राइव है या ड्रामेटिक मोटर है वो क्या था? क्या वो एक ग्रीफ या ग्रीविंग पेरेंट्स थे, या फिर ये पावर जो है जिसके खिलाफ हम सबको आवाज़ उठानी चाहिए? तुम्हारे लिए वो सबसे ज़्यादा एक्साइटिंग या इंटरेस्टिंग कौन सा था?
I think for me, what drew me to the story in the first place was just how resilient and how strong the Krishnamurtis were. Given this loss, that this loss is so big that in most languages there's no name for it. A parent who's lost a child. After that, to struggle for so long against a system that's almost designed to make you give up, and to not give up and to keep fighting, and in the process to impact legislation and to help people in the future and to affect the laws that govern safety in the country. This was very inspiring for me. And I wanted to explore that. I wanted to explore how people can find such strength and courage, because I think that's something we can all learn from. There was that was the primary thing. The second thing is that, it's a cinema where it happened. A cinema is a place you leave your children. It's a place you leave your elderly parents. It's part of your everyday life. When you watch a movie, you dull your senses, because the assumption is that you're safe when the lights go down, and you allow yourself to be transported to another world. So there was something about it being very intimate and personal and affecting all of us, as you said, that I felt was would give it a sense of importance for people, and that it would speak to them. So those two things, I think were the primary draws to me, and I think unfortunately the issues are still relevant, more and more so, in fact, as we develop further and we grow, public safety, the judicial system, and so on. So we wanted to shine a light on that in a nuanced way that would allow people to kind of reflect on what the state of things are.
Fantastic. I think it was a bit meta to see Abhay in the series. Because, and I'm not joking here, but the fact is that Border is a film that is, linked to your family. तो मुझे ये नहीं पता कि उस दौर में जब ये हुआ था, did the family have to I'm sure everybody feels bad. Do you remember any conversations उस दौर में जो affect कर गई होगी आपको शायद, या फिर आपके परिवार को? I'm just guesstimating.
I mean, I don't remember conversation going on about Border being the film that was playing, but the family was affected just by the tragedy of it. But it doesn't matter what film was playing.
Correct.
It could be, it's a cinema that plays films.
Correct.
At some point it was going to blow up
Yeah.
if your safety norms are not being looked at. That it happened to be Border was just a coincidence.
Coincidence, correct.
They would have been affected by it whether it was Border or not.
Correct.
They were still affected by it.
Correct. You're playing someone who's at this point still, fighting the good fight, right? What was that process like? शेखर के साथ बैठने का मौका मिला है, कितना वक्त बिताया होगा, and how do you approach something like that? Because अक्सर क्या होता है जब हमें किसी से बात करनी होती है, you don't want to relive somebody's pain, and there you are as an actor, you're literally there saying that मुझे बताइए. I'm sure you didn't do that, but how do you approach that?
So it was very important, even for Prashant, that I do not take on Shekhar's mannerisms, his accent. It was never about that. It was never about the physicality. Not that itna fark padta, because he's also urban, Delhi grown person, he sounds just like us in any case.
Correct.
It's based on a tragedy. तो सिनेमा जला था, इनके 2 बच्चे थे, इन्होंने कोर्ट केस डालकर 25 साल हो गया, अब आज तक वो लड़ाई कर रहे हैं. They were inspiring. That is the essence, as Prashant put it. Outside of that, Prashant wanted us to bring our own take on these individuals.
जी
वो ज़्यादा ज़रूरी था.
जी
And to be very honest with you, as you said, reliving someone's tragedy. Yeah, I don't know how it would have been if I had been constantly interacting with him, because it was very heavy
yes
and it would have been very intrusive had I
yeah
been expected to ask him questions which would make him very uncomfortable. Obviously, it's not something they would come to set for either.
yeah yeah
It's not an easy one to recreate.
ग्रीफ इज इंटरेस्टिंग क्योंकि हमें लगता है कि हमने बहुत सारे इंटरप्रिटेशंस देखे हैं स्क्रीन पर कि जब व्हेन यू लूज समबडी यू नो दिस इज हाउ पीपल आर सपोज्ड टू बिहेव और अक्सर ऐसा होता है दैट व्हेन यू गो थ्रू अ लॉस यू फाइंड योरसेल्फ डूइंग यू नो रियली वियर्ड थिंग्स and breaking down at the most random moments. So it is going to draw from the personal, but you've done this in the show, so I can ask you this question. What did you have to draw from to actually make somebody else's grief look real? क्या सीखा इस ट्रांसलेशन में?
Yeah, of course, grief is grief. Like it is a difficult moment, पर हर एक का अलग grief होता है और हर एक अलग तरीके से उसे दिखाता है. जैसे नीलम के साथ जो इंसिडेंट हुआ है वो कोई प्रिपेयर नहीं रहता है. शी वॉज ऑल्सो नॉट प्रिपेयर्ड वट इज़ गोना हैपन, हाउ इट्स गोना हैपन. पर जब हुआ था वो, उसके बाद जो उन्होंने स्टेप्स लिए हैं और जिस तरीके से उन्होंने खुद को प्रिपेयर किया है कि वट एवर हैपन्स आई वांट टू नो कि क्या हुआ था. सबसे पहला यही सवाल था उनका कि क्या हुआ था, कहाँ थे बच्चे मेरे, क्यों थे. हर वक्त उन्होंने सवाल किया है और मुझे लगता है कि यही बात हम बहुत बार ऐसा हो जाता है कि हम सवाल नहीं करते हैं, हम चीज़ों को भूल जाते हैं या आगे बढ़ जाते हैं. हमें सवाल करना ही चाहिए. नीलम ने सवाल किया है और 25 साल से करते आई हैं और मुझे लगता है आगे भी करती रहेंगी. और उन सवालों की वजह से आज सिर्फ उनके ही कुछ जवाब नहीं मिले हैं, हम सब के जवाब मिले हैं. आज उन्होंने जो किया है उसके वजह से आज कितना बदलाव आया है, कितनी सारी बातें बाहर आई हैं और मुझे लगता है इन सारी वजह से ही हम सोसाइटी में बदलाव आता है. इट्स अ रिफ्लेक्शन ना, जो उन्होंने किया है वो हमें उसका बेनिफिट मिल रहा है. और आज जो 25 साल तक उन्होंने लड़ाई लड़ी है, शायद आज मेरे जैसी या कोई और खड़ी रहेगी शायद कम हो, उनको उतना वेट ना करना पड़े, उनको इंसाफ जल्दी मिलेगा. So I feel it's the most powerful thing what Neelam did for all of us, that stand up, say, ask for it, question everything and fight with the right intention, fight for your justice. और मुझे लगता है ये चीज़ें मेरे साथ हमेशा रहेगी, प्रोफेशनली भी और पर्सनली भी, कि आप जो भी हैं आप उसके लिए खड़े हो जाइए. So that is something I always draw and it will stay with me forever.
Fantastic. I also because that era is so familiar, क्योंकि 90s की हम बात कर रहे हैं, it's easy to recreate that era, but sometimes also not. But the mobile phones or the mustache or the shirts or the salwar kameez, let's move that to recreating that period. कितना आसान था? 90s is easy to recreate.
The mustache is still around.
The mustache,
Yes.
I guess, was easy, right?
Well, mine for sure.
It's difficult because lots of things have changed, but they haven't. But they have changed a lot. So signage, things like that. Our big problem was in the pandemic. Is that we had to start and stop and start and stop, and then we were very restrained in how we could shoot. So that was a huge challenge. We shot this, off and on through the pandemic. But yeah, things have changed quite a bit. You think, it should be easier. It's going to be easier than.
What's the one thing that you couldn't find, for example? Was there something that you spent a lot of time on, like trying to find a source?
Well, I mean, just mobile, everything is everywhere, so getting rid of that, it's everywhere, mobile,
Background,
everywhere.
yeah.
So 97, and then we had 97 to 2015. So it wasn't just one period. We had to kind of show this evolution. But I think it was challenging for the team. And, that's, during the pandemic made it slightly hard.
Harder. Abhay, तुमने कहा कि hardest था. Did you say that? You said on Instagram, right? Hardest.
I said possibly one of the most.
Possibly one of the
Or probably.
probably one of the hardest. But when you look back, was there a scene जहाँ पर लगा कि थोड़े से, इससे निकलने में थोड़ा सा वक्त लगा? कौन सा scene था? Because I've noticed जब मैं बात करती हूँ लोगों से, you always go for the lowest hanging fruit. हमें लगता है कि ये जो dramatic scene होगा ना, उसी में सबसे ज्यादा acting किसी ने की होगी. और फिर actors, अक्सर बोलते कि नहीं, it was actually that look that was the hardest. And I'm like, what? So, which scene was hardest for you to come out of, तुम्हारे लिए as an actor?
In fact, it's funny. I've answered this before, and I'm glad people are asking. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad they are. एक टाइम था जहाँ पे मुझे बहुत मुश्किल लग रहा था to get myself out of a dramatic role. It would affect me to a point where I wouldn't realize that I'm acting out of this experience of that character and that project. तो जब मैंने realize कि एक दोस्त ने मुझे बताया था एक बार कि पता, like Dev D was a very horrendous experience. So took a while to get out. But I realized I was taking it home with me. It was my fault to also react to situation, character, drama, all of that. So after that, I made it a point कि I can't be like this because फायदा उठा लेते हैं मेरा, और more than that, I also behave a certain way which is not right. तो मैंने ट्रेनिंग ले ली थी, अपने आप को ट्रेन कर लिया, I can be out of it, and I succeeded until this show came along. And not because of him. I only pointed because he came to me with it.
Only you.
You did point.
Not for that reason. And क्योंकि ये एक true story है, तो इसका impact कुछ, मैंने पहले भी true stories बनाई हैं, but ये बहुत ही tragic है. मुझे rehearse करने की जरूरत भी नहीं थी. It was tough, not because of the amount of work I had to put in. It was tough because the amount of work I had to let go of.
Of course.
It was not so much about bringing it on. इनकी कहानी inspiring है. Script, structure सब कुछ perfect है. जैसे राची ने कहा, माहौल भी सही था, डायरेक्टर ने भी बहुत सेंसिटिवली हमें ट्रीट किया और सेट को ट्रीट किया था, तो everything was right. So there was no challenge in making it. It was challenge in getting out of it. After learning how to get myself out, मैं already आ चुका था उस जगह पे, 17 साल हो गए हैं अभी, तो I'm pretty seasoned. But this one, I have to admit, I obviously got out of it soon enough, but I noticed, it was a tough one.
It was a tough one.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I came in thinking this would be a tough conversation, but you made it very easy. Thanks, Abhay. Thanks, Rajshri. And thanks so much for joining me today. Yes.
Thank you.
Radio Nasha.